Servus, Franz. Das sind echte Havannas. Ein Trafikant verkauft Genuss und Lust. Das ist übrigens der Professor Sigmund Freud. Von dem hast du sicher schon gehört. Der richtet den Leuten den Kopf wieder gerade.
Das haben Zigarren.
This is a thinker who helps us understand why our lives and relationships are full of so much confusions and pain. He tells us why life is hard and how to cope. His own life incurred a lot of anxiety. Sigmund Freud was born to a middle-class Jewish family in 1856. His professional life was not an immediate success. As a medical student, he dissected hundreds of eels in an unsuccessful attempt to locate their reproductive organs. He promoted cocaine as a medical drug, but it turns out to be a dangerous and addictive idea. A few years later, he founded a discipline that would ultimately his name, a new psychological medicine he called Psychoanalysis. The landmark study was his book, The Interpretation of Dreams. Many others followed. So what is psychoanalysis? It was developed by Sigmund Freud. Psychoanalysis is a type of therapy that aims to release pent-up or repressed emotions and memories in order to lead the client to cathartic and healing. Psychoanalytic theory focuses on the role of a person's unconscious as well as early childhood experience, and this particular perspective dominated clinical psychology for several decades.
According to Freud's psychoanalytic theory, the ID is the primitive and instinctive component of personality. It consists of all the inherited, example biological components of personality present at birth, including the sex instinct and the aggressive instinct. The ID is the impulsive and unconscious part of our psyche which responds directly and immediately to our basic urges, needs and desires. The personality of the newborn baby is all ID and only later does it develop an ego and superego. Moreover, what is the ego? The ego is that part of the ID which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. The ego develops to mediate between the unrealistic ID and the external real world. It is the decision-making component of personality. Ideally, the ego works by reason, whereas the ID is chaotic and unreasonable. The ego operates according to the reality principle, working out realistic ways of satisfying the ID's demand, often compromising or postponing satisfaction to avoid negative consequences of society. The ego considers social realities and norms, ethics and rules in deciding how to behave. Finally, the superego incorporates the value and morals of society which are learned from one's parents and others. It develops around the age of 3 to 5 years during the phallic stage of psychosexual development. The superego is seen as the purveyor of rewards and punishments depending on which part is activated. The superego's function is to control the ID's impulses, especially those which society forbids, such as sex and aggression. It also has the function of persuading the ego to turn the moralistic goals rather than simply realistic one and to strive for perfection.
So psychoanalytic approach is one of the commonly used methods in therapy, applying psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud. Through psychoanalysis, psychologists treat patients with mental disorders such as depression, phobias, and many more. Psychoanalysis works with the assumption that everyone has unconscious thoughts, desires, feelings, and memories. Reaching into the depths of unconsciousness to bring it to the surface of this consciousness. In other words, releasing repressed thoughts, emotions, along with experiences, in the attempt to seek solutions and ideas to solve and treat patients' problem or disorder. Normally, patients will lie on a couch to relax or for smoother transition into the therapy.
So, did you get all that?
I think so.
Good. So here's a quiz for you to take.
I should have saw this coming.
You definitely should, because I'm gonna hold you captive until the end of this video. Now, first question. What is the general idea behind psychoanalytic therapy?
I think it's B.
Correct. Now moving on to question 2.
Wait, I get no break.
Moving on, question 2. I will say a word, and what I want you to do is to say the first thing that comes to mind when you hear that word. This is a description of what psychoanalytic technique?
Maybe A.
Yeah, no, it's C. Transference is projecting your feelings onto the therapist. Dream association is about dream analysis, and I'm not even gonna explain about D.
I'm just questioning you with the answer. You wrote that answer. What makes you think?
Question 3. Can you tell me a potential weakness of using transferences?
Oh, C. Easy.
Elaborate, please.
Countertransference is when the therapist projects personal feelings onto the client. It can strain the relationship between client and therapist.
Okay, good. Now, the next 3 questions are about Freud's model of the mind. So the questions are now scenario based. The answers I expect from you are either id, ego, or superego. Let's start with the first scenario. Jack joins his friends when they invite him to drink beer and smoke marijuana with them.
Oh, ID. ID is all about following instincts rather than thinking morally and rationally. Jack did an irrational and impulsive behavior by joining his friends.
Correct. Maybe you do have potential. Now, second scenario. Jasmine began to feel very guilty for taking the makeup from the store after she got home.
Ego.
And I take back what I said. No, it's superego. In this scenario, her values and morals are internalized rather than following her instincts. This is the definition of superego. Now, the third and last scenario. Adam wants to do well on his algebra test and stays home to study instead of going out with his friends.
Okay, ego. Because Jasmine began to feel very guilty for taking the makeup after she got home with it.
Good. And with that, we come to an end of this quiz, which means this video is ending really soon.
Yes! Freedom!